The call came at dawn. "Alex, they're building on your land." Mrs. Thompson's voice crackled through the phone, thick with urgency. Alex Morgan rubbed his eyes, still heavy with sleep. "What do you mean, building?" "I mean bulldozers, Alex. Big ones. They're tearing up your grandfather's fields as we speak." Alex sat up in bed, the weight of those words settling on his chest. It had been less than a year since Grandpa Joe passed, leaving behind 200 acres of farmland outside Meadowcreek. Growing up, that land had been Alex's summer paradise. Cornfields that stretched into horizon, a farmhouse filled with the scent of old books and pipe tobacco. His job in the city kept him away more than he liked, but the land was still his. Or so he thought. Now, someone was carving it up without his permission. Suitcase in hand, Alex sped down the highway toward Meadowcreek, questions burning in his mind. Who had given these people a right? How could something like this happen without him knowing? By the time he reached the old dirt road leading to the farm, his worst fears came to life. Bright yellow machines roared across his grandfather's east fields, tearing into the earth. Workers in hard hats moved in every direction, marking plots with orange flags. A massive sign loomed near the entrance. Future home of Sunny Pines East, 96 luxury homes. Alex's hands tightened into fists. "Excuse me." "Hey." Alex stormed toward the nearest worker, but the man barely glanced at him before turning to his clipboard. A woman in spotless beige pants and a crisp white blouse stood nearby, talking into her phone. Even in the dust and chaos, her hair remained perfectly styled. Alex didn't need introductions to know she was in charge. "Diane Reynolds," she said smoothly, extending a hand. "President of the Sunny Pines HOA. What can I do for you?" "You can start by telling me why you're building on my land," Alex shot back, ignoring her handshake. Diane blinked, her smile unwavering. "Oh, I see. There must be a misunderstanding. Sunny Pines purchased this property last year. Everything is legally in order." "My grandfather never sold this land," Alex growled. Diane gave a pitying look, like she was explaining things to a child. "Perhaps he didn't tell you. The sale was finalized months ago." Alex's gut twisted. Grandpa Joe had been sick in his final months, but he was sharp as ever. He would have told him if something like this had happened. "Show me the paperwork," Alex demanded. Diane pulled a business card from her clipboard. "You're welcome to contact our legal department." She turned away, already dismissing him. Alex clenched his jaw, his heart pounding as the machines kept moving, tearing into his land like it was nothing. Mrs. Thompson's old truck rumbled up the driveway, dust kicking up behind it. She stepped out, eyes blazing. "Don't let her fool you, Alex," she said. "Your grandpa fought for this land till his last breath. He knew something was wrong." Alex's fist loosened slightly. If Grandpa Joe had suspected something, maybe, just maybe, he had left behind a way to fight back. Back at the farmhouse, Alex stepped into his grandfather's old office for the first time since the funeral. The room smelled of aged paper and pipe smoke, like time had stood still. Shelves were stacked with farming almanacs, weather logs, and business ledgers. Grandpa had recorded everything: rainfall, crop yields, even the number of crows he'd seen in a day. But where were the land records? Alex spent hours flipping through documents, frustration mounting with every empty lead. Then, as he leaned back in the old wooden chair, something caught his eye: a loose floorboard under the desk. Hard hammering, he pried it open with a letter opener. Inside, a small metal box gleamed in the dim light. A key hung from a nail on the desk's underside, just waiting to be found. Inside the box, Alex found the deed to the farm, his grandfather's will, and, most importantly, a set of old property surveys. His breath caught as he unfolded one. The survey from 1910 showed his grandfather's land was 280 acres, not the 200 listed in current county records. Somewhere along the line, 80 acres had been stolen. A folded note sat atop the papers, written in Grandpa Joe's unmistakable handwriting. "If you're reading this, someone's trying to take what's ours. Look at the original survey. The truth is in the boundaries." Alex's hands trembled. His grandfather had seen this coming. The next morning, Alex stood outside Walter Franklin's law office, a stack of documents clutched in his hands. Walter was a no-nonsense attorney with thick glasses and a bow tie straight out of another era. He flipped through the papers, tracing property lines with a pen. "This is highly unusual," Walter muttered, eyebrows knitting together. "According to these records, your land extends half a mile further east than what's currently recorded." Alex nodded. "And that includes the entire construction site." Walter sighed. "Son, this isn't just a small error. Someone deliberately changed these records. If your grandfather never sold the land, that means—" "Fraud," Alex finished. Walter picked up the phone. "I'm filing an emergency injunction. We're stopping construction today." Against them. That afternoon, Alex returned to construction site, legal order in hand. Diane Reynolds was already waiting, arms crossed, her usual smugness slightly cracked. "You're making a mistake," she said as he handed her the injunction. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know enough," Alex shot back, her lips curled into a smirk. "Commissioner Harris is my husband's golf partner. Judge Evans comes to my dinner parties. You really think your little lawsuit will hold up?" Alex met her gaze. "This isn't just about me. I've met people who lost their homes because of your HOA's tactics. People who were harassed, fined, and forced to sell. This ends now." Diane's expression darkened. "You'll regret this." That night, Alex's phone buzzed with a text. "Parking violation on your property. Fine, $500. HOA compliance office." Attached was a photo of his own car, parked at his grandfather's farm. This was how it started. The intimidation, the legal traps. They were going to try and break him. What they didn't know was that he wasn't fighting alone anymore. Mrs. Thompson, the old neighbors, the homeowners who had been bullied and threatened. They were all waiting for someone to stand up to Sunny Pines. Alex wasn't just going to stand up. He was going to tear their empire down, one truth at a time. The sun had barely risen when the trouble started. Alex stepped outside his grandfather's farmhouse to find 3 white SUVs parked at the end of his driveway. Each had Sunny Pine Security painted on the side. A man in a tight polo shirt stepped forward, handing Alex a thick envelope. "Cease and desist," he said flatly. "You're ordered to withdraw all claims against Sunny Pines or face legal action." Alex tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter accusing him of fraud, trespassing, and defamation. The kicker? It demanded $100,000 in damages for harm to the community's reputation. Alex laughed. "You people are unbelievable." The man didn't react, just delivering the message. "Have a nice day." Then he gestured toward the driveway. Alex followed his gaze and felt his stomach drop. Someone had placed massive concrete blocks across the only road leading out of the farmhouse. He was trapped on his own property. For the first time in his life, Alex understood what fear looked like. Not his own. He could handle a legal fight. But the homeowners of Sunny Pines? They had been living in fear for years. That afternoon, messages flooded his phone. "We support you, but we're scared. They fined us for planting vegetables in our yard. The Millers, they removed my kid's swing set and called it unauthorized equipment. The Johnsons, they raised our fees and won't show us where the money goes. The Rodriguezes, Diane had built her empire not just through fraud, but through fear. And fear was a house of cards. All Alex had to do was blow hard enough. Late that night, a car crept up the driveway, carefully dodging the concrete barriers. Alex grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch. A familiar figure got out. Gerald Fisher, the HOA treasurer, the same man who at the last meeting had whispered to Diane, "These boundary markers look real." Now, Gerald looked nervous. He clutched a flash drive in one hand. "I shouldn't be here," he muttered. "Then why are you?" Alex asked. Gerald hesitated. Then, with a sigh, he handed Alex the flash drive. "Because what's happening isn't right." Inside at Alex's kitchen table, Gerald opened his laptop and exposed the truth. The HOA's financial records didn't add up. Homeowners were being charged thousands in special fees for repairs that never happened. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been funneled into fake companies owned by Diane's family. 20 homes, the same ones built on Alex's land, had ongoing drainage issues that Diane had ignored. She's been bleeding us dry for years, Gerald admitted. You showing up, it scared her. She doesn't want people looking too close. Alex's mind raced. This wasn't just a land dispute. It was theft, fraud, and corruption on a scale no one had dared to challenge before. Until now. The next day, Alex printed 200 flyers and went door to door through Sunny Pines. Each flyer read, "Emergency community meeting. Your home may be at risk." By sundown, 97 families packed into the community center. Some sat, some stood against the walls. Diane entered last, her red blazer crisp, her face a mask of forced confidence. "This meeting is unauthorized," she snapped. Sarah Jenkins, a homeowner who'd been fined for painting her door blue, stood up. "Or what?" she challenged. "You'll fine us? You'll steal more money?" The room erupted in agreement. For the first time, Diane looked nervous. Alex walked to the front, documents in hand. "I'm not here to take your homes," he said. "I'm here to fix what's broken." He laid out the evidence. The stolen land, the fraudulent property lines, the missing money, the harassment. People gasped. Some cursed under their breath. Diane's face paled as Alex held up the final document, a printed map. "According to the original surveys," Alex said slowly, "Diane's personal house sits entirely on my land." The room exploded. Diane slammed her hands on the table. "This meeting is over," she shrieked. "I will fight this to the end." Alex smirked. "I was hoping you'd say that." From the back of the room, a woman stood up, not a homeowner, not a board member, a reporter. Janet Rivera. She introduced herself, holding up a recorder. Meadowcreek Gazette. "And I'd love to hear more about this story." Diane went stiff. Alex turned to the crowd. "Tonight, we take our community back." The cheers nearly shook the walls. Diane tried to leave, but homeowners blocked the exit. Not physically, but with their presence. She wasn't in control anymore. Alex took a deep breath. His grandfather always said, "The best trap isn't one you set. It's the one your enemy walks into willingly." Diane Reynolds had just walked into hers. The night after the explosive meeting, Alex barely got any sleep. His phone buzzed with texts from homeowners, reporters, and, unsurprisingly, Diane Reynolds herself. This isn't over. The next morning, Alex stepped outside to find a surprise waiting for him. A county inspector, clipboard in hand. He frowned at the farmhouse. "Sir, we've received multiple reports of code violations," he said. "Unsafe porch railing, electrical hazards, septic system failure. I have no choice but to condemn the property." Alex clenched his fists. Diane was making her move, but she had no idea he was ready. "Fine," Alex said. "Condemn it." The inspector blinked. "Wait, what?" Alex grinned. "You just gave me official documentation that my property is not part of Sunny Pines. That means their HOA has no control here." A long pause. Then the inspector muttered, "Huh," and walked away. One battle won. But the war wasn't over yet. The next morning, a fleet of police cars and county vehicles rolled into Sunny Pines. Alex, standing on his porch with a cup of coffee, watched them with satisfaction. Diane had played her hand. Now it was his turn. A stern-faced officer knocked on Diane Reynolds' front door. "Ms. Reynolds, we have a warrant to inspect the HOA financial records," he announced. Behind him, Gerald Fisher, the treasurer-turned-whistleblower, stood with a folder in hand. Diane's face turned ashen. "This is ridiculous." "Actually," the officer said, "what's ridiculous is that $427,000 in HOA fees has gone missing. And the payments to your family's shell companies? That's fraud." A wave of whispers spread to the neighborhood as homeowners gathered to watch. Diane turned to Alex, pure fury in her eyes. "You did this." Alex took a slow sip of his coffee. "No, Diane, you did this. I just let the truth do the rest." By the time the sun set, Diane Reynolds had been escorted away by police for financial misconduct and fraud. But Alex knew his fight wasn't over. At a town hall meeting that night, hundreds of Sunny Pines residents gathered, unsure what came next. Some were furious. Some were scared. One man stood up. "What happens to our homes?" Alex stepped forward, speaking into the microphone. "You won't lose them," he assured. "The land may have been stolen, but I'm not here to take your homes. I'm here to fix what's broken." He laid out a plan. Every homeowner would receive a legal deed to their property, ensuring no more shady land deals. The HOA would be dissolved and replaced with a fair, transparent community board. A portion of the land would be preserved as protected wetlands to prevent flooding and honor Grandpa Joe's wishes. Silence. Then applause. Sarah Jenkins, the woman who once got fined for painting her door blue, stood up. "I've lived under Diane's rules for 8 years, she said. "She told us we had no choice. Alex just proved we do." The applause turned into cheers. Months passed, and Meadowcreek changed. The community thrived under new leadership. Homeowners painted their doors whatever colors they wanted. Vegetable gardens flourished. HOA fees were cut in half. The wetlands were protected, and a walking trail was built in Grandpa Joe's honor. One evening, Mrs. Thompson knocked on Alex's door. "I found something while cleaning out my attic," she said, handing him a dusty old notebook. It was Grandpa Joe's journal from 30 years ago. Alex flipped through the pages, and there it was, notes about the original developers. Grandpa had fought them once before, and now Alex had finished what he started. Mrs. Thompson smiled. "He'd be proud of you, you know." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I hope so," he murmured. 1 year later, Alex sat on his grandfather's porch, watching kids ride bikes down the street. A blue heron soared over preserved wetlands. The community garden buzzed with life. And on the land where Sunny Pines East was supposed to stand smaller, eco-friendly homes were now being built, with solar panels, green spaces, and fair ownership. Sarah Jenkins walked by and waved. "Glad you stayed, Alex." Alex nodded. "Me too." Diane's HOA tried to steal his land, but in the end, they gave him something far more valuable: a home, a community, and a legacy worth fighting for. The end.